I'd do it. I'd fucking eat your menstrual blood.
Bless you. This is how our friendship is.
Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
The atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand.
It is our basic human right to be forgotten.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Put chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
What kind of bodily fluids can we trade today?
Let's start this episode.
I wanted to do the blood substitute. I got the extra
Blood substitute. Blood substitute.
Start the episode.
And garlic is expensive.
I know. Start the episode.
It was funny because we did a...
Hello. And welcome to Occultae Veritatis podcast. I am Ood Gallifrey.
Sage Murray.
Leon Filger.
And in studio with us,
Tia Thatcher.
And Richard Bigley.
We're going to talk about how a bridge collapsed and how a giant furry man moth caused it. But we need something to drink first.
Me, man.
The name of my porno. The premise of my porno.
Yes.
Giant furry man collapses a bridge. All right. Sounds about right.
8-inch man moth.
8-inch?
Yeah.
8-inch. All you
8-inch
man moth.
So, what's your poison?
I challenge all of you to hold your can up to your microphone, and we're going to do 3, 2, 1, crack.
I can't do it. Sorry.
Right up to the microphone.
Okay.
This is ASMR stuff.
3.
1, 2, 3, crack.
Oh, close.
Nice crack.
It's crack. It's crack-a-lack.
I've heard that before.
It's from Wine and Crime. I love Wine and Crime. You guys, listen to Wine and Crime.
Yeah. This is Coors Slice.
It's
what
fine.
am I drinking? What did I just put in my mouth?
What have I committed to? Try this. Hold on, how bad is it? It's fine. Is it zesty? It's not good. It's not zesty. It's fine. It's stale.
It's less orange flavored, more air freshener flavored.
Yeah, if you're really disappointed in the Bud Light Orange, I would suggest maybe move to the Coors Slice.
Leon is still just... Oh, man. He looks really upset about it. Like, I'll drink it. I don't care.
Yeah, if Bud Light Orange isn't your thing, definitely, maybe but you do like orange in your drink.
Orange is my favorite color, and I'm offended by what's happened to my
color,
tongue.
Like Kronenberg Blanc with like a slice of orange in it would be fantastic, or some sort of like wheat beer with orange in it with some little bit of hint of coriander or something would be fantastic.
No.
This is crap, but less crap than Bud Light Orange.
Yeah.
So if you hate Bud Light Orange, maybe try this if you like orange. But if you don't like orange, don't try this at all, because this is kind of whatever.
Okay, I rate this fucking a ghost whore out of
fucking a ghost whore.
Watching a ghost child pedal a tricycle in someone's attic, except you can't see her.
We should take that and put some sort of music box childhood doll dancing ballerina music.
Yeah, do it.
Can we not? Because there's a bunch of porcelain dolls at the places I clean at, and it's terrifying.
No, this is yucky.
Don't you clean a funeral home?
I do. That's why when you guys are talking about pissing on graves and shit, it was please, man, I watched those poor yard workers clean so much stuff off graves.
I also worked at a funeral home, and so I find that I have to laugh at it because it was that creepy. I used to sell cemetery plots.
What pisses me off is that they have a game to see how many times they can scare me in a day, because I put in
note to future self, I'm always listening to you guys. Like, I play the next episode when I'm cleaning. So, if you guys yell at me, there's probably a 99.9% chance I'm listening. I'm like, Tia, do your shit. I'm like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah. Tia, do your shit.
Tia, do your fucking shit already.
Fucking lock the door before you leave this time.
Yeah.
But they've gotten to the point, they've cleaned shit off of tombstones. Like, somebody's gone on, like, taken a shit on a headstone. I'm like,
oh, no.
I would do it.
I know you would.
I hear that's called night fertilizer.
I would shit on my father's grave, I think.
Except his ashes are in our cabinet instead of in a grave.
For those listeners who don't know already, my father's ashes are in a bottle on the cabinet in our recording studio. And at some point in the future, we're going to mix it in some hot chocolate and drink it.
They live in my house.
Yep.
Oh,
how do you feel having my father's ashes in your home?
I'm all right with that.
I don't know. Haven't you seen the fucking South Park episode where Kenny drinks Cartman's ashes? Like, is that really what you want on your fucking conscience?
Kind of.
Jesus
a little bit.
Christ.
Is there a conscious there to affect?
I'm going to end up drinking
Bless you.
myself.
I kind of want to be haunted.
I'll be like, holy shit, can I get some Crown Royal?
I have to tell the Richard Bigley story.
Golden Wedding.
Shut up, listen. Okay, so some time ago, never mind how much entirely, it was probably 2007. As a joke, I poured some of my dad's ashes down the back of Richard Bigley's shirt, and he lost his shit. Trying to tearing off his shirt, trying to get the ashes off of him.
Fucking bone in my back hair. Jesus Christ.
It was so funny.
Bone in my back hair is the name of my kind of like thrashy throwback kind of group. Yeah.
This liquor sucks.
I had bone in my back hair. It was a terrible experience. Don't ever experience that if you can avoid it.
It was just so
But if
funny
you're friends
by how
with Leon
uncomfortable he was
Filger,
about
you
it.
have absolutely no say in the matter because you'll just throw it down your fucking shirt no matter what.
And the terrified dance you did was golden.
The Terrified Dance You Did. That actually sounds like a really good band name. The Terrified Dance You Did.
Well, it's that Bigley's very uncomfortable with death, and so having my father's ashes dumped down his shirt made him even more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I would be like, yes, let them reign over me.
The
and
existential
they shall.
The existential nothingness creeps me out.
Throw them at my face.
Hard no.
Holy, we've got some ashes right now. We could do that for a poison.
I filtered out the bone chunks too when I put it in.
I don't even care if there's bone chunks. Let them get in my nose.
Why does she get no bone, but I have to get all the bone? That's not fair.
Listen, most people don't complain about getting boned, and here you are, Richard Bigley. I want you to realize how honored you are.
Did you know boner is kind of a misnomer? Because humans are one of the only mammals that don't have a penis bone to make their penis hard.
My dudes, I am working on getting a bear dick bone.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I'm working on it.
Bear dick bone.
Bear dick bone.
You want a bear dick bone?
That sounds like a
The
band
twizzle
name.
stick. I want it so bad.
I mean,
sounds
I
like
can
a
just call my
secondary
friends from the Yukon
highliner.
Reserve and get you one.
Please bring me a bear dick bone.
Say no
Bear
more.
Dick
Hold on,
Bone
let
is
me
a
call
secondary
Alec.
highliner at the Nest Creek Music Festival.
Yep.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
Nice.
All I wanted in my life is a bear dick bone.
Okay, hold on.
Oud, let's start this shit.
Let's let Oud talk.
No, okay, I want 11 bear dick bones, and now Oud can talk.
Jesus.
I'll make a necklace out of them. I'll put one in my ass if I need to.
I'm so sorry.
A local Cherokee man was being driven home by his son when they encountered the Mothman. They sped up and started making sharp turns to shake the animal. But the beast pursued them undeterred.
The first thing we saw was this winged creature, 14-foot wingspan at least. It was huge. It was almost covered half the road.
When the car slowed down, the monster attacked the vehicle.
And it was close enough for me almost to reach out and touch and almost hit the windshield.
The terrifying encounter gave the man a clear look at the monster.
It had a wide mouth. The eyes were the size of the reflectors that are alongside the road. The body was attached to the wings. It had gray and brown hair-like, but not much hair. More fleshy, kind of like a bat. That's why I called it a man bat, because it looked like a cross between a man and a bat.
The attack ended when the creature abruptly changed directions before their eyes.
It was like in mid-air at windshield height. I have never seen an animal move like that. It just went straight up.
But as it departed, the creature let out a shriek.
We heard the sound in our heads. It was kind of like vertigo. It made us sick to our stomach. Real high-pitched ringing. And my son swerved and went off the road. He was driving, and he opened the driver's door and threw up, and I got sick.
The man returned to the location a couple of days later. What he found was even more disturbing.
We went out to look at the site, and thinking maybe it had come out of the bushes there someplace, or it was on the road or whatever, and found a deer carcass that looked like it was filleted, laying alongside the ditch.
The appearance of the creature matched historic descriptions of the Mothman.
So the year was 1967. Leo Otto Sanders, a taxi driver, was on his way to pick up a fare. Maxine Ellen Sturgeon was on her way to her family. She had 3 sons and 3 daughters. Lillian and Paul Wedge, a married couple, were out for a date night, driving to a restaurant they both liked. At the same time, the bridge they were standing on, or driving on, the Silver Bridge, began to shake. Metal began to fall, rivets began to pop, and soon the bridge fell into the water. All of the people I just mentioned died, along with 43 others. They either crushed by cars, crushed by falling bridge parts, or simply drowned in the water below.
Mrs. Foster, what was the first thing that you saw?
Well, I heard before I saw anything. I was standing right here in my kitchen preparing dinner, and my 2 boys came out the back door down the steps to get their bicycles. They got down to the bottom of the steps here, and they started screaming. We heard this terrible boom, and my boys looked around and saw the bridge starting to fall. Well, as soon as I heard the sound, I, of course, ran out the back door to see what was wrong with the boys and what the noise was. And as I got out my back door, of course, I could see what was happening, and I stood right here and watched the whole bridge.
What did the bridge look like?
Well, it's like my little boy said. It was just like you would build a bridge out of child's building toys. And then if you just take a stick and just knock the props out from under it, that's the way it went.
Did you see all the trucks and cars falling?
I could see part of them, yes, from where I'm standing. But, of course, where the trees and things are, I couldn't see too much.
Mr. Ellis, when was the first indication you had that everything was all wrong?
Well, I came to myself after, I imagine it was after the truck came to rest on the shore there, or on the ground. Someone was trying to get me out. That's all I can remember. See, I was in the sleeper.
Were you asleep at the time the bridge fell?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what was the first thing you realized after the collapse?
I realized someone was either pulling me out of the truck cab or lifting me onto a stretcher or something like that. I was so rattled, I was trying to figure out, but I couldn't. I believe they was lifting me onto a stretcher.
What happened to the man who was driving the truck?
He's just across the room here. He has a broken back, and I'm not sure, but maybe one or two, or both of his legs broke.
The man who was in the truck with you, have you spoken to him since?
Oh, yes. He keep him under sedation because he has quite a bit of pain. But he comes to, and we talk a little bit occasionally.
Ever have an accident like this or anything like this before?
Not this serious, no. This is the worst I've seen.
But that's not the main part of the story.
Oh.
Our story takes place in Point Pleasant in 1967. At that time, it had a population of 6,100 people, and it was built at the confluence of the Kanawha and Ohio rivers. It is 96.57% white. In early 1967, UFO sightings were up. Now, there's no way of knowing whether this is because UFO sightings generally starting to show up, or whether this is right near the beginning of the sci-fi age, when movies and serials and little monthly magazines started to come out and started to talk about UFOs and aliens and all that stuff. So people were kind of being given a script in their minds to follow. Like, this is what aliens look like, this is what they do, so if you spot something strange in the sky, that's what it is. Where the story starts to get strange is where something called Mothman comes in. Now,
love Mothman.
Yeah. So all the sightings of the UFO were type 1 or type 2 spotting. So type 1 is just spotting an unidentified object in the sky. Type 2 spotting is spotting like crop circles or burn marks in the soil, stuff like that. So of all the reports of Mothman, some things are similar. 17 of them say that the Mothman has red eyes. 0 of them mention any type of arms. 3 reports mention legs, and all of them mention muscular legs, and 19 of them say that it had wings for arms on its back. The first sighting, arguably, was November 1st, 1966. Yeah, basically a National Guardsman was guarding an ammo depot at 6 to 8 p.m. Basically, Point Pleasant was the place where a lot of armistice was stored. So just like Dundurn, south of Saskatoon, a bunch of missiles and bullets and all that stuff were stored there.
I've done a lot of weddings
A
there.
lot of armistice?
Yeah, armistice.
A lot of weddings. A lot of love.
Yeah. Along the tree line, so he was watching the tree line with his spotlight, and along the tree line he saw a brown, shaggy person perched high on a tree. He estimated at being over 6 feet tall. What was strange to him is it was high up in the branches of this tree, and he says for the size of this thing being over 6 feet tall and it being thick and furry, like it looked like it was heavy, it shouldn't have been able to suspend itself on these thin little branches way up.
Right.
He went to get a superior, and by the time he got back, the Mothman had disappeared.
Oh.
Fluttered into the night wind.
November 2nd, 1966. Woodrow Derenberger spotted a cigar-shaped UFO pass by his truck in the passing lane about 12 inches off the ground. Now, this story starts to get stranger and stranger. Not only is Mothman involved, there's several sightings of Men in Black, and also it seems to go together because the people that spot Mothman also have visits from these Men in Black. Now, I have no...
the Men in Black.
Yeah. So basically, this cigar-shaped thing passed him in the passing lane and then turned in front of him like a cop car trying to block a road and basically blocked him in. A man stepped out of the craft, and the craft flew away. He was 6 feet tall. He was very ordinary looking, no distinguishing features.
So what exactly did he look like then?
I don't know.
Was he just a dude?
Yeah, he was 35 years old. His face was stuck in a permanent smile. He had short brown hair, brown eyes, a face free of wrinkles, despite the fact that he was smiling huge. He had no wrinkles beneath his eyes or anything like that.
And he showed up in a phone booth and was like, allons-y!
Oh, yes.
Allons-y!
Yeah, he pointed a screwdriver at the car door. No, just kidding. He basically approached the car and... instead of asking with his mouth, roll down the window, apparently this Woodrow Derenberger heard in his head, roll down the window.
Asking with his mouth is the name of my, kind of rap rave group, I'd guess.
I like that. So this man was, very plain-faced, short brown hair, looked like an ordinary dude with his face was stuck in a permanent smile, and he asked...
Kind of like me, except with a penis.
Yes. And he asked weird questions, like, what are you called? Instead of saying, what is your name? He says, what are you called? And he asked, why are you frightened? He doesn't understand why flying by in a giant cigar-shaped spacecraft and blocking the way...
Don't call me out like this.
Yeah.
That's how Sage picks me up.
It is.
He pointed towards the city lights in the distance and asked what they were. He didn't seem to understand what a city was. After Woodrow asked his name, he told him that his name was Ingrid Cold.
That's my fucking name.
Oh, no.
That's a very That's an odd name. It's not even a good cover-up. I couldn't think of somebody whose name, I've heard some weird names over the course of working for the lovely military.
Yeah.
And I've never heard of a name like that.
Yeah.
Ingrid Cold.
Ingrid Cold. It sounds like a really cool spy name, like Flint Cole.
Okay, well, I love it. I'm obsessed with it right now.
Yeah. And also, he says Woodrow Derenberger says weird things. When I say that he pointed towards the city lights, Woodrow says he didn't actually point. He just gave the impression of pointing in my head. So he says weird things like that. When he asked what Cold is doing there, he says, I am a searcher. And he ended the conversation abruptly and stepped back from the truck. And seemingly disappeared.
Oh boy.
Yep. And we actually have an interview with Woodrow Derenberger not long after these events happened. I'm going to throw the full recording up on the Patreon feed, but this is a little cut piece. You can see and judge just how authentic and how descriptive Woodrow is being about his encounter.
Mr. Derenberger, in your own words, would you please relate what happened last night?
Well, I am a salesman, and I drive a truck, and last night, shortly after 7 o'clock, I was coming from Marietta, Ohio, coming down Interstate 77. And just before I came to the intersection of Route 47, there was a car past me, overtaking me from behind, and following closely behind this car was this unidentified flying object. And as the car behind passed me, this object was following close behind it, and it swerved directly in front of my truck, turning crosswise. And when it turned crosswise, it slowed down. It started slowing, not abruptly or too fast, but it gave me plenty of time to step on my brakes and slow down with it, but it forced me to come to a complete stop. As soon as I had stopped, there was a door opened in the side of this vehicle, and this man stepped out and came directly to me, or came to the truck. He walked to the right-hand side of the truck, and he told me to roll down the window. He asked me to roll down the window on my right-hand side of my truck. And I'd done what he asked. And this man stood there, and he first asked me what I was called. And I knew he meant my name, and I told him my name. And he asked me, he said, why are you frightened? He said, don't be frightened, we wish you no harm. He said, we mean you no harm, we wish you only happiness. And I told him my name, and when I told him my name, he said he was called Cold. That was the name that he was called by. And he asked me what the city of Parkersburg, he pointed to the lights. He didn't point, but he gave the impression that he was pointing, and he asked me what that was called. And I told him it was Parkersburg. It was a city, a town. And he asked me if most all the people lived in this city or town. And I explained to him that it was a place of business. It's where we transacted our business. That the people lived in communities, outlying communities, most of the people. And when I told him that this was a city, he said that where his home was, that was called a gathering. And again, he told me not to be frightened, which I was. I was very frightened. And as far as I can understand, this was all mental. There was no spoken words from him. I knew what he was asking me, but yet he stood there and his mouth did not move. He had a smile on his face. He appeared very courteous and friendly. And after I talked with him a while, he told me he would see me. He said, we will see you again, and he left in his vehicle.
Now, Mr. Dernberger, for the sake of our television audience here, the words that you used, cold would be like Cold is his name. This is how it sounded to you, that his name was Cold.
Yes.
And the word gathering was like we would know together or something like this.
Yes, that's what he meant. That was the impression that he gave.
And he did not move his lips nor utter any sound whatsoever. He talked with you in telepathy then.
That was right. That his lips did not move. He uttered no words at all.
But you talked. I mean, he didn't.
Yes, I talked. He told me twice that I could either talk or I could think, which either would be better or easier for me.
This was an instant thing. There was no hesitation on his part nor on your part. You knew immediately what he was communicating to you, and he knew immediately what you were communicating to him.
That is right.
What did your wife think when you told her about this episode?
Well, my wife was, she took it pretty calmly, but it kind of made her nervous. She worried today before I started back to work. She thought the same thing could happen again, and she believes that what I told her, and she's pretty upset herself about it.
This thought communication, which is apparently extrasensory perception or mental telepathy, when was you first aware that this was the way that you were communicating?
Well, when he first told me to come, when he first got out of his vehicle and started over to my car, that is when he first told me or asked me if I'd roll down my window. At that time, right at that minute, I didn't know that it was mental telepathy. But when he came to the door and looked in through the window from the right-hand side of the truck, then I realized that he was speaking, but his lips were not moving.
Is this the thing that frightened you, that shook you up?
This is what made me, that frightened me more than anything I believe that had happened up until that time, even more so than when I actually seen object. And I know that he told me not to be frightened. He was very reassuring in his attitude. He was friendly. He smiled continuously while I talked to him.
He kept his arms folded something like this all the time.
His arms were folded completely at all times. Like I said, his hands were hidden. And at the time I talked to him, I didn't think nothing about it. But after I started home, I did wonder why he stood that way. And as I believe one of you gentlemen asked me before about his hands, when this man closed the door, when he got back into the vehicle, I distinctly seen this other man's hand and arm, and his arm looked completely normal in his hand.
Now you described the attire of this person more as a suit, such as I'm wearing, than a uniform.
Yes,
that we know as a uniform.
I would say that it wasn't a uniform. It didn't have, you know, the cut of a uniform. It was more like you would wear a suit to town. Or
was it a cloth like this?
Well, it was a bright, shiny color cloth. It looked like what my wife calls a hard fabric. It glistened when the lights would shine on it.
A luminous type.
Yes.
The arm that came out, another arm from inside came out to close the door when this gentleman got back. Was that arm clothed in the same type of...
I would say it was identically the same. It looked the same to me exactly.
Now he had on, from what you could see, he had on a shirt that buttoned with a collar but no tie.
He had no tie, but I know that the top button of his shirt at the throat, I know he had a button there. I seen that. I looked at that button. Mm-hmm. His button. Now his top coat was zippered. It had a zipper on the front of his coat. And he looked perfectly normal.
Why do you suppose that he came around to the right-hand side of your truck rather than the nearest side to you? Why do you figure that he came around that side?
Well, the only reason that I could give for that was that I had two wheels off on the berm and two wheels sitting on the highway where I'd been trying to get around this before he got me completely stopped. And I believe that this man actually knew the traffic conditions. I believe he knew that he would be safer on the other side.
Now, if he didn't use words in communicating with you, if he used thoughts, why did he have you roll your window down? So that he could hear you?
So
do you feel that this was why he did it?
I believe that he had me to roll the window down so he could look at me without looking through the glass, because the glass was very rain street, where it had been raining. And that is the impression that I got, that he wanted the window down so I'd be in closer communication with him, or so we could see each other.
The time when he left you, when your conversation was ended, how did you know that it was all over? Did he say, well, did he say anything to the effect that, well, I've got to be going now, I have to go, I know, how did he terminate this conversation?
He terminated his conversation very quickly. 1 second we were talking there, and the next thing this vehicle settled down right beside. He stepped back from the truck, and when he stepped back, this thing came right back down. Now, it wasn't crosswise the road when it came down. It was heading in the same direction I was. It was right the length of the truck. And when it settled down, he turned and walked up around in front of my headlights and back. But just before he started, he said, Mr. Dernberger, we will be seeing you again.
You believe he will?
Well, I did believe it, but now I don't know how to answer that honestly, because I'm afraid he will, and I don't want him to. But I have a feeling that he will.
You're apprehensive that he will see you, yet
again.
Yet you would probably like the experience again.
Well, I don't think
prepared this time.
I don't think that I'd be quite so frightened. I think that I could ask him a few questions. I think I could ask him just about as many as he's asked me now.
Well, Mr. Dernberger, because of time, we appreciate you taking the time to come down here with us.
November 12th, 1966. Kenneth Duncan and 4 other men were digging a grave for Kenneth's father-in-law. I guess that's something you do in Point Pleasant. You just get your friends together and you dig a grave for your father-in-law.
As one does.
Oh, yes.
Like you do.
Oh, yeah. Ken looked up as he was digging and saw a big man without arms standing in the trees. It rose up from the trees, and he says it did not flap as it rose. It just lifted, like... Yeah, just like hovered. It didn't even flap its wings. It flew overhead of the men, completely silent, and the rest spotted it. He said it should be flying low enough, so it just skimmed their heads, and he said it should be hitting tree branches if it's going that low, but it didn't hit any of them. November 15th, 1966. 2 couples, Linda and Roger and Steve and Mary, were joyriding around a teenage hangout spot near Point Pleasant called the TNT area. This TNT area was, again, the storage place for a lot of armistice, a lot of explosions, a lot of guns, a lot of bullets. It was basically a depot for the World War II munitions.
Sweet.
Yeah. It was basically 118 concrete domes, like, built in, like, this field, and they all had explosives on the inside.
That sounds like a Nina song. 118 concrete domes.
They parked near an abandoned factory, the factory that made some of these musicians, and did what 16-year-olds...
These musicians?
Munitions.
Munitions.
Sorry.
And did what 16-year-olds do when in private spaces. You know, they're necking, making out and all that.
Necking. Who says that anymore?
Me.
I do.
Hey guys, that'll be real keen if we go down to the soda shop.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to get a malt afterwards? We can go back by the old shop and get some necking in. Like, scandalous. She's got her elbows and ankles out. Sorry.
Oh my. Bum, bum.
All right, back to Ood.
We have an episode? Oh, fuck, we do, don't we?
Yep.
Yeah, no, we gotta finish
my
this.
bad.
Yeah, so 2 couples, Linda, Roger, Steve, and Mary. They parked near an abandoned factory. Steve looked up in between necking on...
Necking?
Yeah.
Necking.
In between yecking on Mary. Spotted by Steve, a tall, 7-foot-tall, giant red eyes. They said the eyes were the size of hubcaps, gray wings folded on the back, and it went around the corner of the factory. And they said it wobbled like it was stumbling and made a sound like a baby mouse.
I'm not sure who got this video of me.
My first thought process is like, this has happened. We all need to sit down, get our story straight together. So when they all send us to the asylum, we at least like go together.
Yeah. In the same room, at least.
Yeah, at least. I want to be able to talk to you and be like, we're not as crazy as everyone else.
So we need to like start a local Mothman hoax, which is really just the secret viral like advertising campaign for the podcast.
I think
but
so.
then once we come with the big reveal, and then suddenly everybody like listens to the podcast and becomes Patreon subscribers.
Everybody.
Yes.
Mandatory. Yep. So these couples, they spotted this weird thing hobbling around, giant red eyes, big wings, 7 feet tall. They tore off. They went around the corner of the road back towards town. And like a weeping angel, the Mothman appeared in the hill in front of them, in front of a billboard.
Neat.
He was gliding back and forth. Basically, as soon as the Mothman spotted them, it was flying above the car and was flying back and forth above the car.
Mm-hmm.
They went faster and faster. They were reaching speeds of 160 kilometers an hour.
I would really like to be gliding back and forth faster and faster, reaching speeds of 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's the space to be.
Yep.
That's
Sounds
some
about
speed.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, and as they got to the city line, it flew off into the distance. They said every time it passed over the car and its wings beat down, they could hear the wings beating on the top of the car. They stopped at a diner, they caught their breath, and they turned around and wanted to make sure it was still there before they called the police. So they drove 2 miles back towards where they were. They saw a large dead dog on the side of the road.
Oh, no.
As soon as they slowed down to try and see what was happening, the Mothman jumped up over the body of the dog and over the car to the other side of the road.
So it went from like tiny to like gigantous?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, either this dead dog was giant or it was being real sneaky behind the dead dog.
Yeah, real sneaky behind the dead dog is my vote.
Yeah. And they called the police. Of course, by the time the police showed up, there was nothing there. This is the encounter that caused the media storm.
By the time the police showed up, there was nothing there. It was the name of my sex tape.
Oh, yeah.
Can I interrupt for 1 second for real life problems for people at this table? Anyone parked outside, it is currently hailing.
Oh, shit.
Fuck yeah.
My car's parked outside.
I love dints. Dints are fun.
Dints?
Dints.
I got the soft top, so we're okay.
Yeah.
I just got my dents fixed. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
You know what I meant.
So it was now. So these people went to the media, got written up, it went all over the country, and this is where the creature was dubbed Mothman, after a Batman villain named Killer Moth.
Some tried to come up with scientific explanations for the Mothman. Skeptics claimed that it was a mass hallucination that had been cleared up by the shock of the bridge tragedy. Others blamed it on a curse placed on the town by a Shawnee chieftain over 200 years before. And a local ornithologist claimed that it had really been just a big bird all along, a sandhill crane. This species superficially matches descriptions of the creature, but eyewitnesses disagree.
Wrong color, too skinny. I've seen pictures of sandhill cranes on TV, and no. In my opinion, Professor Smith from West Virginia University was 100% wrong.
Various college professors tried to say that it was a stork or something dumb like that, and some people said it was a giant owl. Well, I've seen large owls, but I've never seen an owl that as big as a man.
It was also later revealed that the TNT area, where many of the sightings took place, had been horribly polluted. Many of the ingredients that had gone into making the munitions had been dumped and left to seep into the local ponds. In the 1970s, scientists declared the area an environmental disaster. It is still one of the top EPA Superfund cleanup sites. So some wondered if perhaps the creature was some sort of mutant bird, an abomination caused by the horrible effects of toxic waste. But that didn't explain the strange lights in the sky, the abject terror felt by eyewitnesses weeks and even years after their encounter, even today.
You know what you saw. You saw it. But what was it? Where did it come from? These are questions you ask yourself all the time. Is there something out there that, stalking us? I mean, you can't deny what you saw. It's just very hard to explain, Very hard to explain.
Alrighty, to play us out, here is the Mothman song, Believe in the Power of the Mothman, by the artist Paranormal Song Warrior. It sounds like Mothman propaganda, and it is, but it's entertaining. See you in the after show.
Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman.
Well, he's 7 feet tall with eyes of red, and if you don't listen to him, you will end up dead. He tried to warn everybody, yes he did, about how they were in danger from a broken bridge.
Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman.
Mothman, Mothman, I believe in ya. Flying round the town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, with your bright red eyes and gigantic wings that make me wanna sing.
Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman.
Well, this ain't no sparrow and it ain't no owl, with its high-speed flying and its high-pitched howl. It's not a hawk, not an eagle, not a bat, nor a pheasant. It's a Mothman of Point Pleasant.
Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe, believe, yes you can. Believe in the power of the Mothman. Believe in the Mothman.
Alrighty, so here I am, back once again, running our first contest for the second year in the row. Here is the Genital Cosplay Contest opening announcement. So last year we did this, we asked people, almost jokingly, hey, send in a picture of your genitals, meaning dick, pussy, boobs. I don't know, if you consider your foot a sexual part of yourself, you can dress up your foot in cosplay. Same with hands, whatever. And send it in for a contest. We had a bunch of entries, like way more than we thought we were going to get. We thought we were going to get like one crank, and that's it. And we're just going to give them de facto winner of the thing. But turns out that didn't happen. And here we are once again, and we are announcing the opening. So, before October 31st of 2019, dress up your genitals in whatever costume you'd like. In the past, we had a dick dressed up as Doctor Who being chased after by Daleks. We had a dick dressed up in a little Bo Peep costume. We had a golem emerging from somebody's vagina, which was excellent. So it was kind of like Pokemon exploration, all that good stuff. Listen to the old episodes around October if you want to hear the rest. But yeah, feel free to send them in again. The winner last year got an episode of their choosing and a free t-shirt, and we're going to do the same exact thing this time. So to recap, dress up your genitals, send it to ovfeedback@gmail.com before October 31st, and we will judge them and put them through our rubric of genital cosplay excellence. And the winner will get a free t-shirt and an episode of their choosing. You can force us to do whatever episode you want. You can even do a local case from your hometown, and we'll dive deep into it. Yeah, so those are the deets. Happy Halloween. I'm glad it's creepy season once again. I'm Oud Gallifrey. Keep safe out there. Don't text while driving.